Hi there. Good morning, everybody. Welcome here to the Prog Monster. My name is Murph, and I am the host of this show. So we're going to do that mini series we've been running now. I guess this is week number 6 of those bands that got it all started. Yep, the bands from the 1950s that contributed a lot to what went on forward in the 1960s. So the band I've chosen to talk about today is the first of this type. So last week we did the Everly Brothers. If you want to watch the episode, you can go back and watch it, which is a rock duet. But this band, which is the band we're going to be doing today, is the Platters. The Platters were a vocal harmony group. I guess you might just call them a vocal group. Basically, doing both rhythm and blues and rock and roll music, along with it, what we would call doo-wop, right? So I'm not going to give you the births of all these guys because these are not the original members, but I guess you would call them the classic members of the band are all gone from the band, although the band still exists. But they had lots of lineup changes throughout the years. They also had a lot of legal battles because people had left the band, other people would take over, and some music industry people took over the band and was playing them as the Platters. So there's all kinds of legal battles over that. Anyways, they charted 4 number ones overall, and over 40 singles from 1955 through 1967 made it onto the charts from these guys. Probably the first big single was also quite possibly their biggest song, which was called "The Great Pretender." This is their first number one hit. It came out in 1956. They've been active since 1952 and are still active today, although there are no originals or even what we would call classic members left in the band. I'm not sure. I think many of them have probably passed away. They influenced bands such as the Beach Boys, Sam Cooke, Gladys Knight, and the Pips, amongst other bands that were strongly influenced by their harmonies and their singing. I kind of think of their music as rock and roll and rhythm and blues, but also like kind of a gospel kind of feel to some of the stuff as well, at least early on. They were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 1990 and the Vocal Group Hall of Fame back in 1998. So they've been in there for a while. And this is, I believe, this is the classic members of the band right here. See them all there. Yeah, so this particular album that I have here is a kind of golden hits, but most of the albums you're going to find because back in that time period, over most of the stuff was singles, so they would just collect singles and make greatest hits albums. So there's quite a few of those. Only You, some of their big hits, Only You and You Alone. The Great Pretender, of course, that's a well-known track by them as well. I'm just looking through this list here to see if there's any more of their big-time songs. Those are the 2 big ones on this album. You got That Magic Touch, of course, another great one. So pretty prolific band putting, like, once they had their first hit, they seemed to be like a hit machine almost. Nothing, like they only had the 4 number ones, but back in that time period, that was plenty enough, right? Didn't need to have a billion number ones like they seem to have these days. The other thing about this band that I wanted to mention, now I've completely lost. I marked it down here. I can't find it now. There was one other thing. Oh, yeah. So their albums sold. They sold 1.69 million albums like this, but they also sold more than 100 million albums worldwide. I assume that's the singles when they're referring to that. Yeah, so to me, this is a band I like a lot. A lot of the bands that, because I tend to like vocal music like the Nylons and a few bands like that, they often cover bands like this from the 50s. Very popular thing to do, especially with the more modern, up-to-date kind of bands that like to do that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so this is a greatest hits, the Platters Golden Hits from 1986. I've seen other stuff by them, but I quite like these guys. They're easy to listen to, not too complex, not a lot of instrumentation, usually just what we would call orchestra music in the background. So that's my take today. The Platters, released back in the 1950s, dominating that early 50s, and continued actually into the 60s and into the 70s and beyond. Not recording so much after the 60s and 70s, but still singing and touring. They toured largely in Europe after the four male members of the band. So Zola Taylor wasn't in on that, but the other four members of the band were arrested for drug and prostitution, which are charges that they were not found guilty of, I believe. But other than that, so it severely curbed their reputation, so they didn't get a lot of radio play. So they started touring and playing in Europe, where they did quite well. So that's my take today. Please hit the like and subscribe. If you want to make any comments about the Platters or the members of the Platters or their hit singles or the music they played, you can do that all in the comment section below. And we will see you all next Thursday when we're doing the final episode of this first round series. They got it started from the 1950s. The last person we'll be doing next week will be Sam Cooke. He's my final choice. Could have done a whole whack of people that I didn't do, but can't do everybody. People are going to say, what about Buddy Holly? What about Little Richard? There's lots of people out there, but you can only do so many episodes. So that's my final choice, is Sam Cooke, one of the great singers of all time. And we'll be doing him next week. So hope to see you all then. Take care and have yourself a good evening, and goodbye here from the Prog Monster.